to call the meeting, to order the meeting of the Ascension Parish Council's Finance Committee. We'll begin with the invocation and the pledge, and I would like to ask our staff member, Mr. Ken Dawson, to please lead us in that invocation and pledge.
Let us pray. Father, we come again and we give you glory and praise, oh God, for all the wonderful things that you've done. Father, the things that we have control over, we know that you do. And Father, we thank you, oh God, that you are the one who protect us and guide us. Father, we pray, oh God, for your wisdom, oh God, and your understanding as we lead, oh Lord God, this parish, oh God, to the things that you have established for it, to help the people that are here, oh God, and to give them the quality of life that you desire them to have. We thank you for the council. We thank you, Lord God, for all the administration. And we thank you, Lord God, for the wisdom to lead forward, Lord God, into the things that you will have us to do. We pray that you bless the people of Ascension, Lord God, and we pray, Lord God, that you watch over those, Lord God, that are in need and help them in any way that's necessary. We give you all the glory and praise in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have some members who have not yet arrived. Councilman Lohr will be joining us shortly. Who else is missing? Kent. Dempsey. So if you'll note that we'll try to help you to know as they slip in from the side that they've arrived. I do have one addition to or at least a change, not an addition, excuse me, to the agenda. As a courtesy to Mr. Dugas, we will be moving item number 9 up and calling it 5A. The budget presentation will become 5B. Item number 9 is with regard to the Fire District 3 payoff of bonds. So Malcolm will handle that at the appropriate time. I would like to remind the public that if they wish to speak on any agenda item, they need to come forward, let the secretary know, and be prepared to have your 3 minutes. Having made that change, is Malcolm available?
Don't see him.
If not, we have the fire chief here. Maybe he can make the presentation since it's a resolution.
Absolutely. Mark, you can
Pinch it.
pitch it for Malcolm.
Okay, I guess I'll do that for Malcolm. Does it need to be read in full? We don't. Okay. It's just a resolution adopted by the Board of Commissioners for Fire District 3 to retire or redeem the bond series 2005A and 2005B, which were issued for Fire Protection District number 3. We wish to retire that when the redemption date comes due, which is December 1st of this year. And again, the Fire District 3 Board of Commissioners voted in favor of this. And again, Malcolm was supposed to present this tonight, but I think he has copies I have copies here. I'm not sure where they need to go, but.
Not a problem. I think we have them
Okay.
in our packet.
Motion by Councilman Lambert.
Move to the full council.
I have a motion by Councilman Lambert, a second by Councilman Kluot. Any discussion? Any objections? That motion passes. Mark, congratulations. I'm extremely proud of Fire District 3 for their effort to retire this debt. How early is that retirement of debt, Mark?
Approximately half would retire in 2015. The other half would go until 2020. So quite early. But 3 years on half of it and 7 or 8 years on the rest.
Congratulations on your fiscal responsibility.
Yeah.
We appreciate that. Councilman Shakespeare has joined us. And now we will move on to what is now item 5B, the 2012 budget amendment and the 2013 budget presentation. Ms. Gwen LeBlanc and the parish president.
Good afternoon. You have before you the proposed 2013 budget as well
Ms.
as...
Gwen, we can't hear you. And if the secretary will note that Councilman Lohr has arrived as well.
Can you hear me now, Terry?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You have before you the 2012 amended and 2013 budget book. Also before you, you have a summary of the 2013 budget, and we'd like to go over that now, and we'll conclude with comments from President Martinez.
Thank you.
So the booklet is the small blue. And on the first sheet, we have the 2012 budget, amended budget compared to the 2013 budget. And you'll see first is the operating budget. It has operating revenues, $75.7 million for 12, $70.1 million, or $71 million rounded off for 2013. The operating expenditures, $68.9 for 12 versus $66.8 for 2013. And then the fund balance that's required to balance these budgets is in 12, it called for $2.9 million. In 2013, $3.2 million, for a total operating budget in 2012 of $68.9 million, and in 2013, $66.8 million. The capital budget has revenues in 12 of $1.2 million, and in 2013, $12.6 million, and the capital expenditures in 2012 is $34.7 million, and in 2013 it's $57 million. The fund balance required to balance the budget in 2012 is $23.9 million, and in 2013 it's $37 million, and that is for a total capital operating budget in 2012 of $34.7 million versus 2013 of $57.1 million. So the total budget for 2012 versus 2013, in 12 it's $103.7 million, and in 2013 it's $124 million, rounded off. And on the page 2 of the booklet, you'll see that we're just showing you a bar chart comparing the 2012 amended budget to the 2013 budget. And this is both the capital and the operating. So you can see the revenue in 2012 compared to 2013. You can see there's the operating revenue, and the purple is the capital budget revenues, and then the red is the required fund balance for the combined budget. And then the expenditures are at the bottom, and it shows the expenditures in 2012 versus the expenditures in 2013, and it's just taking the operating versus the capital budget. So on page 3, if you turn to page 3, this is, I'll talk a little bit about the structure of our budgets. This is using the 1 cent sales tax, which is our largest source of revenue. Of any fund in the budget, and that amounts to $16.1 million. And the chart represents the dependence. What I'm trying to show you is the dependence on other funds that we have, how they depend on this 1 cent sales tax. Basically, there's only 2 funds that the parish operates that can be used for any lawful purpose of government, and that's the general fund and the sales tax district number 1, which is a 1% tax. So if you look at the pie chart, we're looking now at just the transfers out, because the sales tax, that's basically all they do is transfer out the money they receive. So the largest part of the pie is the general fund at $8 million. That's almost half. And the Road and Bridge Maintenance Fund, this is not capital, this is just the operating funds, $6.1 million, and our Recreation fund at almost 1.7 million, and then our debt service fund at 324 million. Now, if you relate these transfers out, you can see that at the bottom, the general fund, their revenues and transfers in budget for 2013 is 17.2 million. And of course, they're getting this 8 million from the 1-cent sales tax, and that 8 million represents 47% of the general fund's revenues and transfers in. The general fund has not been able to balance for many years now, and because the 1 cent was undedicated, they are able to balance the general fund to provide the services, the vital services that the people need, with a transfer from the sales tax district number 1. The same thing is true of the Road and Bridge Maintenance Fund. This is not the construction fund, it's just our maintenance fund operating out of the Department of Public Works. It has a budget of revenues and transfers in of 7.1 million. It requires from the sales tax a transfer of 6.1 million to operate. And that 6.1 represents 86% of the revenues in the Road and Bridge Fund from the sales tax. Recreation, that's our other fund that has no dedicated revenues. Its revenues and transfers in amounts to 1.8 million, but it requires 88% of its revenues comes from the sales tax district number 1 at 1.6 million. And then the debt service, that is a mandated expense on the 1-cent sales tax by the debt covenant, and that's for the jail expansion. The debt service for 2013 is $795,000, but because of the intergovernmental agreement you have with the sheriff for housing prisoners, the parish portion for next year amounts to about $324,000 of that $800,000, and the sheriff's portion is about $500,000. So that agreement has worked out very well. Now, when you get to the general fund, that's an undedicated fund. It can be used for any legal source of operations of parish government, but it also has some state and federal mandated expenses applied to it in the amount of 4.8 million, almost 4.9 million actually. What does that include? It includes payments to the 23rd Judicial District, the clerk of court and sheriff for appearance in court, the coroner at $228,000, JPs and constables, we budget $175,000, election expenses $208,000, probation and juvenile expenses $470,000, criminal court, we had to transfer $375,000 to that fund, and the parish jail, we transferred $2.8 million to operate the parish jail for a total of $4,900,000. So of the general fund's budget of over about 17 million, almost 5 million of that is dedicated by the state and other things. Now, all the other funds in the operating budget, they're either dedicated by the electorate in the propositions for a specific purpose, so you can't use it for anything else but what the proposition calls for. Or they're restricted by state and federal governments, and this is mostly our grants, which in 2013 we have $14.7 million worth of grants coming in that are dedicated or restricted for those specific purpose for which the grant was applied and awarded for. Or it's restricted for debt service or by parish ordinance. So the only, basically what I'm trying to interpret and show you is that there's only two ways that you can spend money for any purpose, and that would be under the general fund or the sales tax district number 1. The rest of the funds, if they're dedicated, they have to stay in that fund, and you can't use it for any other purpose but for what the electorate voted for. Or if it's restricted by state or federal governments, it has to stay in those funds for those specific purposes. Or if it's restricted for debt service, naturally it has to stay in those the debt service funds. Or if it's by parish ordinance. And if there's any questions, I'd like to stop right here just a moment to see if anybody has any questions.
Gentlemen, you've received a pile of information. If you have any questions, it would be a good time to ask those at this point. Everybody appears to be good, Ms. Gwynn.
Okay, and once we finalize our presentation, the purpose of you getting this budget at this time is because of our home rule charter. It says the budget will be presented from the parish president 75 days prior to the year's end. So that period of time, you will have to review it, and if you have any questions, just call us, and we'll be glad to help you through it or answer any questions you may have. Now, the charter also says that the council shall adopt their budget for the next year 30 days prior to the end of the year. So the calendar for that is on the regular meeting of the council, Thursday, October the 18th. We will have the introduction of the budget ordinance, and then we'll have the public hearing and consideration for adoption of the budget at your November 15th regular council meeting. So with that, we'll go on, and Dawn is going to go over a few of the highlights of the operating and the capital budget, and like I said before, we'll conclude with comments from President Martinez.
Thank you, Ms. Gwynn. Dawn, thank you.
Good evening. On page 4, what we have here is a breakdown of the 2013 operating budget revenues plus the required fund balance. As you can see, the largest source of revenue comes from sales taxes at $34 million. Next would be property taxes at approximately $16.9 million. Some of our other large revenues are interest income, licenses, permits, fines, forfeitures, and various miscellaneous revenues at $11.4 million. Some other revenues are intergovernmental revenues at $4.5 million almost, and these are comprised of state revenue sharing, fire insurance rebates, parish transportation funds, rebate from state taxes, and reimbursements from the WIC, which is Women, Infants, and Children Program, and the Housing and Urban Development Programs. In addition, we have other taxes, which comprise of beer and franchise taxes, which is just $1.4 million, intergovernmental grants of $2.6 million, and then the overall required fund balance to balance the operating budget is $3.2 million. If you turn to page 5, we have a pie chart which shows the breakdown of the 2013 operating budget expenditures. The largest portion of those expenditures comes from general government at $20.3 million. The departments and/or funds that comprise this are legislative, judicial, general administration, technology, video programming, finance, human resources, engineering, Lamar-Dixon, the Ascension Parish Insurance and Dental Insurance Funds, the Maintenance Fund, and the Fleet Fund. Then in health and welfare at 9.7%, that is comprised of the health unit, mental health, Council on Aging, and Utilities Fund. The Public Works Road and Bridge comprises $7.4 million, and Public Works drainage expenses are $10 million. We have intergovernmental grants and appropriations at $2.1 million, recreation and promotions at $2.5 million, and the public safety includes the fire districts, jail, and Office of Emergency Preparedness at $7.8 million. And of course, we have our debt service at $6.7 million. Page 6 is a breakdown of the capital budget revenues and expenditures. The majority of the revenues comes from the fund balance, which is mainly from bond proceeds previously issued for East Ascension drainage, road and bridge construction funds, and then grants. This totals about $37 million. We also have some miscellaneous revenues of interest income of about $295,000, other revenues of $170,000, and then intergovernmental grants, which this is the Community Development Block Grant Program, which is $12.1 million. Correspondingly, for the expenditures, which total $57 million for our capital budget for 2013, this is comprised of, the majority of it is from drainage construction, which is $20.2 million, road and bridge construction, which is $15.4 million. The other construction is Oak Grove Community Center at $295,000, and the Community Development Block Grant, which is listed, those projects are broken out in the box to the left of the document, which shows each of those projects totaling $11.2 million. And then we have in general government, the building construction of $5 million, and then health and welfare, which includes $3.5 million for construction fund. On page 7 and 8 is the 2013 budget summary. This budget summary breaks down the revenues, interfund transfers in and out, and expenditures for each fund in the operating and capital budgets. Each of the projected 2013 ending fund balances are listed. For 2013, the general fund has a projected ending fund balance of $4 million. The special revenue has a projected ending fund balance of $58.4 million. Debt service has a projected ending fund balance of $1.9, and the enterprise internal service funds have a projected balance of $5 million. So therefore, your operating budget, the ending 2013 projected fund balance is $69.4 million. For the construction funds, the projected ending fund balance is $5.4 million. So together, the operating and capital budgets have a projected ending fund balance of $74 million. The expenditures for 2013, your total budget for operations, for operating funds is $66.8 million, and for the capital projects, $57 million, which gives us a total budget of $123,885,300. So if y'all have any questions.
Gentlemen, does anyone have any questions? Hearing no questions, we can move right along.
Well, I just want to certainly thank the council and thank the finance department for a job well done. We start this process around June of every year, and it continues until you actually adopt this budget. If you look at the highlights of this budget, again, we're operating budget. We've down $2 million from last year, which is good. If you look at the other good part of this budget is that the capital expenditures and projects are up by approximately $23 million. So again, the majority of that money is going to be to complete the drainage project. Also $11 million in road funds that we're going to utilize this year. And on projects, we do some widening on Roddy Road. We'll be doing some overlays, and of course, I think the money is going to be in here for the 42 project, basically to pay what our cost of the sharing on that. So it's a good budget. It's a very conservative budget as usual. As I said, it takes a lot of hours to put this together. We wanted to give you a lot of time to absorb this. This is certainly something that you're not going to come here and in 10 minutes tonight be able to look at it, digest it, understand it. So we wanted to give you 30 days to actually come to us if you have any problems. So we'd be happy to sit down with each and every one of you individually if you would like. If you have any questions about the budget, it's certainly open for your view, and we certainly want to be transparent in everything that we do here. So again, I just want to thank the finance department for a job well done again, and that's why they win all these awards year after year. And again, we want to continue to with the conservative approach, and certainly with the transparency that we do have here in government. So again, if you have any questions over the next 30 days, we would certainly be willing to try and answer them and to the best of our ability. And if you have any changes that you see that you would like to make, that's certainly, this is your chance to do so. So again, I want to thank you guys this past year for the job that you've done, and hopefully next year will be just as good. And we've had a good year, and as I said, if we continue along this route, I think we're going to continue to progress and certainly move forward in this parish.
Thank you, Mr. President. Gentlemen, any questions or comments?
Madam Chairman.
Councilman Satterley?
Sorry, I didn't have my mic up. Thank you. I appreciate the time Mr. President has offered for the 30 days, because this is an overwhelming amount of figures, and I'm sure we're all going to study these, myself included. And I guess we'll be asked to vote on this probably, Madam Chairman, at the next meeting in terms of an ordinance. Is that how this-
November, the
Introduced
November
on
meeting,
October the-
November 15th, I think,
Okay.
Councilman Satterley.
One quick thing, though, that Mike could go into record now. In talking to President Martinez immediately preceding the meeting in the conference room, one thing I noticed that seems to be different. In the past, typically, this 1% rural tax, or the parish council tax, or as we've been calling it, would be split, any residual funds at the end of the year, between roads and recreation. And I notice now a 50-50. That split is now a 25-25, 50% split. And I want the public to see that right off the bat. The new thing, I guess, would be the 25% to the utilities funds. Have I misspoken, Mr. President?
Yes, this year, that's the way it's going to be also. This is what we voted on in 2012. That's the split. The previous year, it was 50% for roads, 50% utilities. Recreation, growing as it is without any additional funding, we felt that it would be better to put 25% in recreation to help offset some of the costs there. So, and we did that last year and brought it out during the budget process.
So is it correct to say the 25% to recreation, even though we don't have dedicated funds there, they're getting new funding? Is that correct? Is it based on this new budget?
If everything would hold the way it's been over the past several years, we usually came out with a surplus of about $2 million. Basically, we put $1 million in the transportation fund, and we put $1 million in utilities, waiting, of course, on the parish-wide sewer project. We've been able to grow that fund to about $4 million. This year, we transferred some of that money into a actual construction fund. So there's a lot of plans here for recreation, for the existing parks and other things. So hopefully we can take that $2 million and still put $1 million in roads, and then put 25%, which would be $500,000 in utilities, and $500,000 more per year in recreation. And that's assuming that it's $2 million. It may be $1 million, it may be $3 million. I don't know that yet until we get to the end of the year. But we felt that recreation needed some added funding.
For clarification, that was done in 2011 for the 2012 budget initially. Then it is carrying over to the 2013 budget.
Thank you.
Councilman Joseph?
And Chris, that won't happen till after the final audit, and that's like in June before we really know what the true numbers are, correct?
That's generally April or May, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But
I
then
don't
we'll
want
put it in-
January. We think we have a certain
You're a year behind when you do this, because the audit, as you said, and the budget process that we go through, we have a calendar year. We don't go in, state goes like July to July. The feds go from October to October, and we basically follow it from January to January.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councilman Lohr?
Just a comment, Mr. President. I just want to say I think this is the fifth year in a row we've seen operating expenditures decrease, so I appreciate you continuing to find ways to squeeze the budget, and your staff's as well, and trying to be more efficient, because every little bit certainly helps towards roads, and it seems like that's what we've been able to do, is continue to squeeze that down, and that combined with, you know, some surplus is actually how we've been able to have the extra little bit and kind of do piecemeal extra roads and utilities. So, thank you.
A little bit on that. Basically, when we came in office in, was it 2008, you know, you generally want to keep enough enough money in surplus to actually operate for 6 months in the event of a catastrophe, a shutdown, if the plant's shut down. When we took office, I think we were at about $2 million in that fund that we like to keep at about $8 or $9 million. So I would tell you that we fully restored that to the $9 million that we do need to operate government in the event of any kind of catastrophe. And certainly if a hurricane, anything else comes up, we've got the money there to do what we need to do until we get repaid. So it's been very tight. We work our budget every year, and we look at every item. I can assure you, we sit down and go over fund by fund by fund and look at it and see what we need to do to make sure that we can continue operating. So again, it's a team effort, and of course you guys are the ones responsible for adopting the budget. And you know, sometimes you cut the operating budget down, and then through the year, sometimes we'll have unexpected expenses that we have to do in the event of something breaking down, drainage or anything else. So on something on the road, and we've also been successful so far, I think, in the lease program. So hopefully that can continue. We've got better vehicles on the road. We've got safer vehicles, and certainly I think it's reaping benefits. So.
Ms. Gwynn, I have a question for clarification, please. Anybody may answer it. I do not question the ability of the public to understand this budget. I will tell you that it will take me a considerable amount of time to digest it. But I also know that there is the tremendous possibility that misinformation will be shared in the public about this budget. So I want to clarify that area of the budget where we show an operating deficit of $40 million is inaccurate. It is not inaccurate, for lack of a better term, but it does not adequately represent that we are $40 million in those parentheses. Please explain that.
Okay, if you look at your budget summary, you can see at the very end, and that would be like the second to last document in your little booklet, page 8. And if you look at the third to last column from the right-hand side, you'll see an operating surplus or deficit. And if you go down to the first yellow line, that's the operating budget. And like we said, this means what is it? If you're operating in a deficit, you need the money from somewhere. And if you have fund balance, that's where it would naturally come from. But also, we would never recommend in an operating budget that you use your fund balance for one-time events. So the figure is $3.2 million for the total operating budget. And then if you go down to the very next yellow line, this is the capital budget. This is where it all is. You're operating at a $37 million deficit, and that's what you should be doing in your capital budget, because you're spending money from bond issues and either grants that the revenue was actually received in prior years. When you sold the bond, you get all of the money, or if a grant comes in, you record the revenue at that point. And so, therefore, the revenue is sitting in a fund balance until you go through the construction process of spending the money. So you can easily see that $37 million is coming from your fund balance in your capital budgets for your capital projects. And that's mostly naturally the East Ascension drainage. They think they will conclude their major drainage plan with the bond issue construction, and that deficit that they're taking out of their fund balance, if you see just a few up, is 20 million, and leaving them only about 2 million if they do indeed are able to conclude all of the projects they have on the, in their drainage plan. And then the next one largest one would be our road construction project, and you see that we have almost 3 million that we have in our road construction fund, and is because that the half-cent sales tax that is divided 1/3 for fire protection services and 2/3 for road construction, which was in the proposition and is dedicated, one of those dedicated funds, we're transferring that money into this road construction fund as it is accumulated. Now, also, a part of that money has to go to the debt in that fund. So it's paying out not only off the debt from a 16 million bond issue that was prior years ago and concluding that debt, but the remainder of it is, of the 2/3 of the half-cent sales tax, is going to the road construction fund. And then the next one is the offices building construction fund. Now, this is 3 projects, and this deficit, if you go across, you'll see it also has expenditures of 5.9 million. In 2012, we transferred $5 million that we received from when the council abolished the East Ascension Hospital Service District. It came with, not only with the assets, the immovable assets, but also with $5 million in cash. So we transferred that to a construction fund, hopefully to convert that building into an office complex so we can consolidate all of the parish offices that are located throughout the parish. So that's the main things that happened in those funds. But the 40 million is just a combination of the 37 million in the capital projects and the 3.2 million in our operating budget that we're taking from our fund balance, which is the second to last, to the 40 million. We started off with 115 million in our fund balance, and it's ending the 2013 year with 75 million. And like I said, the bulk of that is in the capital projects funds, is exactly where it needs to be. Because if you sell bonds, you should conclude with the construction, or you end up in an arbitrage issue, which we never have and never want to do.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that more detailed explanation. It never fails to be misinformation out there, so I'm trying to prevent that from happening, both on my end and everyone else's. All right.
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
One more comment. You have before you your book, the budget book. Now, that is a draft. Once you have adopted it, we will reprint it with a lot more information, a lot more supplemental information. Now, the figures will never change, naturally, unless the council changes them. But the supplementary information, we will have a lot more in there than there is right now.
Thank you.
That's it.
Any questions? Councilman Shakespeare?
Tommy, correct me if I'm wrong, but last year's operating budget to this year's operating budget, we've reduced that by how much? Yeah. So we've reduced the amount that we actually spend on operations of the parish by $2 million in this budget, which, with everything, increased costs and everything, I don't think people realize that, that's a pretty good reduction, and I think we reduced it about that much last year. It was 1.6 or something. I think it was somewhere there. So
a lot of the problems with trying to adjust these budgets are like healthcare issues. I mean, we are spending a lot of money on healthcare, and we've actually this year changed some of our policies to the point where, the parish had, up until this point, has paid like 75% of the insurance premiums. Well, what we've done, we had to change our policy to keep the cost down, to where any new person that comes on board would be like 50-50 as far as health insurance. And also the deductibles have gone up this year, are going to go up this year. So that way it doesn't hurt the people that's been here their entire life, but any time and through attrition, as time goes on, it'll help lower our insurance costs. But even with that, I think we're projecting a 15% increase in insurance premiums, just like everybody else is facing in private sectors. It's also hitting in the public sectors, but again, hopefully it gets better.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just to inform people, a lot of people think that the government just go out and spend, and want people to realize that we're actually reducing the operating budget and have done so in the last few years. So we are taking the people of the parish's money and spending it wisely and actually reducing and becoming more and more efficient. And that's something that I know as a council, probably one and for all, we talked about it a great deal and express our wishes to the administration, and administration continues to carry that out, and we want to congratulate you on finding ways to do that, because that makes it a lot easier to go to people and talk about what we're doing when we're actually reducing the amount that we're spending every year. So we're trying to be more efficient with the money. We appreciate that.
Basically, what you want to do is reduce your operating cost and up your capital projects, and this is a good year to say that you've done that. So.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing more with recreation, more with mosquito control, animal control, and roads, and now the big thing is going to be sewer and everything, which there's no amount of money great enough to go through that, but it sets us up to, let people know that we are utilizing the money wisely. So that's very important for everybody to know. So I welcome anybody that wants to look at this budget, or anybody wants to be critical of this budget, is to come and find out before you say something publicly. Please come find out the facts, because a lot of times there's people out there saying things that's not necessarily factual. So I think this is very important.
Thank you, Kent. Councilman Kluot.
Yeah, once again, I want to thank Gwen and them for putting this together. Tommy, thank y'all for administration for all the hard work. One of the things that we've had to do is basically to raise and get these capital projects moving, both in transportation, roads, and in major drainages. We've had to critique every bit of the way. Every estimate we've got, work it down, and try to get the best money we can for the people in the parish, and get the best project for the least amount of money. So far, we've been pretty successful at that. Within the past 4 years, we had a lot of catastrophic events. An unusual number of catastrophic events for the hurricanes and different things like that. So far, we haven't been able, we haven't had to go broke in any department to try to take care of the needs of the parish at any time during any one of these events. In our major departments, such as roads and drainage, we've been able to have some money there to dip in, do some repairs, do some things to get things fixed without killing the budget, without killing the future projects. And that takes some hard work, and it just got to keep moving in every direction. One of the things that I do want to commend the administration on, it comes down to finance at the end, that every time we've had a catastrophic event and there was money to be had, there was FEMA out there was federal grants, there was anything, that this administration has kept their time books right, did everything right, put everything forward during all these events. A lot of people don't know what goes on behind the scenes to try to even get a nickel of your dollar back. And I can tell y'all what, this administration and every department has worked hard, and if they brought back in as much money as possible to pay back for some of these out of our federal funds and bring it back from Washington to pay us back for some of the money we put out during these emergency times. And they continue to do it. And it's not an easy job when you're fooling with federal money, because you got to inch your paperwork for every $100. And it's got to match. And it's continually audited for even years after you turn it in. And so I want to thank y'all for that.
Any other questions, comments? O'Neill, do we need a motion to accept this presentation, or is there any? Motion to move?
That we moved it to the full
Right.
council.
I have a motion from Councilman Shake Snyder,
What
second.
meeting will that be?
November 15th.
November
Second
15th
meeting in November.
You got an introduction
I
at
think
the
it's the
first
15th.
meeting in
An
Oh,
introduction
this is
Thursday
gonna be
night.
introduced at Thursday, but you vote on the
Vote on the
15th.
15th of November.
So a motion to move, second by, a motion by Councilman Shake Snyder, second by Councilman Kluot. Any further discussion? Any objections? That motion passes. Next item on the agenda is item number 6, the 2012 Parish Audit. Mr. Tommy Lejeune and Jacob Wagasback.
Thank you, Ms. Casso. What you have for your consideration is an agreement with us to engage us for your 2012 audit, or auditing your 2012 financial statements. We've worked with you in the past, and look forward to working with you again.
Motion, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Second came from, motion by Councilman Johnson, second by Councilman Lohr. Any questions? Discussion? Any objections? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 7. Malcolm, you are welcome to say something at any time, considering you weren't here when you were supposed to be.
That's what I want to say something about.
Thank you.
First of all, I'd like to thank you for moving it up on the agenda for me.
You're quite welcome.
Second of all, I'd like to apologize for not being here on time to meet with your moving it up on the agenda. I understand it's already been considered, but what was actually presented tonight was informational only. The resolution has already been adopted and passed by Fire District Number 3. The Fire District Number 3 just wanted y'all to know what was going on, and that on December 1st, the bonds can be repaid. That'll be done from funds that they have saved, and also from the reserve and the sinking fund. So everything's in order. They're doing a great job. Again, I apologize for not being here on time.
Not a problem. Duly noted and duly congratulated. Thank you so much. Moving along to item number 7. It's an authorization for property damage settlement. Mr. O'Neill Parrington.
Yes. This was the auto accident that occurred on February 21st in 2012 in Donaldsonville. There was a severe auto accident, and there were multiple. Our ECUD building was damaged, but also the vehicle of the other driver, who was the innocent party, had like $22,000 worth of damage. There was some property in the building that was damaged, owned by one of the companies, and there was only $25,000 worth of liability coverage for the policy. And so the insurance companies proposed splitting it pro rata based on the amount of damages, and we're going to recommend that y'all accept this settlement.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I second it.
Motion by Councilman Joseph, second by Councilman Lambert. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, anything? I mean, Mr. President, anything out of the ordinary on there?
I spoke to O'Neill about it, and he thought that was the best that we could do on the situation.
Okay.
We also talked today to Marvin Grow, and I think they're going to ask for an extension
Okay.
on the amount of time.
Yeah. That'll be
So whatever y'all, I'll get with you and Oliver, whatever y'all.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Any objections? Motion passes. Moving on to item number 8, Ascension Economic Developments Corporation's quarterly update. Mike Eads, President, CEO. Welcome,
evening,
Mike.
Madam Chairman, members of the council, committee. You have our written quarterly report before you. I won't dwell on it too much, but the summary activity, as you can see there, is we're quite busy. We've got 51 projects in various stages of activity, representing the potential of over $10 billion of investment in the parish and 4,648 new jobs. Just see my note there where I compare that to about this time last year. It's actually 5 times the potential capital investment and twice the number of jobs. So far this year, you've had 9 projects announced in the parish. You see them listed there. We'll point out on the second page, the second item there on Aegis Valves, the job number is a typo. That should say 12, not 213. I wish it was 213. I'd be able to report to you, but that is a typo. Those add up to $1.52 billion and 560 new jobs. We've got 2 announcements pending that you see there. And they combined 12.5 million and another 10, and then you see the 3 decision pending projects. That first one, Project Happy Corn, we will be coming back before you as the council this Thursday to talk about amending the sales tax rebate that you previously approved. So we hear back from us on Thursday about that. As far as our strategic initiatives, we continue our calling program on our existing firms. I'm pleased to report to you that business is good throughout the parish. We're hearing very few companies that are going backwards as far as employment. Most people are looking forward to adding both capital and employees. Still working on our film consortium, for lack of a better word, and we're looking into some software perhaps to adopt to get our film database back to where it needs to be. Just a word on, I don't know if you're aware that on the ballot in November there is a referendum, a statewide referendum concerning the ability to enter into 10-year ad valorem tax exemptions for non-manufacturing projects. As you're probably all aware, you're mandated to give the 10-year exemption to the qualifying manufacturing projects. This, if it passes, would allow you to do that for certain non-manufacturing projects. As you see there, the qualifications are at least $25 million, 50 new jobs, and at least 50% of their revenue has to be derived from out of state. I will tell you that in the 3.5 years I have been here in this job, I only know of one project that has come through here that this might have worked for. So don't get scared about it. I don't think you're going to see, I'd like to see some of that activity, but I don't think there could be an overwhelming amount of demand for that. And as you see there, it's somewhat complicated by the fact that everyone involved in the ad valorem tax process, well, not everyone, but almost everyone has to approve this. And so any of those entities listed that decide, for whatever reason, that we shouldn't be doing this can say no, and it affects everybody. You should have in your package our 2011 financial review. That is a consolidated report of the foundation and the corporation. As you see, we have a clear report, no adverse findings. Pleased to report to you that if you look at this Secretary of State's website, our reporting is in their A category. This briefing that I'm getting ready to conclude is the 4th briefing of this committee a year, which is your prescription for us. And we have also met with Parish President on 8 occasions so far, and we'll be meeting with him Wednesday. And at last but not least, we have started a strategic planning effort, the first one in the history of AEDC. You all should have received a survey from us. I hope you filled it out in email, or it's electronic. If you haven't, please do so. And you should have received notice last week of a planning session on October 26th, and we're going to try to hammer out some of these details. And that concludes my report, unless you have some questions.
Mike, thank you very much for the work that you're doing on behalf of all of us. And gentlemen, if anyone has any questions, entertain those now. Seeing none, thank you, Mike, very much. Moving along to item number 9, construction of new fire station 33 on DePlessis Road for Ascension Parish Fire District 3. Chief Mark Stewart, accompanied by folks from Domain Design Architecture. Mark, you might want to introduce
Madam
those.
Chairman, we're just here asking for approval or for y'all to move to the full council for us to place this construction out for bid. They've completed the construction documents. We're at that point now. We started earlier this year by entering into the contract with the architectural firm Domain Design. They have completed the construction documents. We're at the point where we're ready to go out and try to get it out for bids.
Madam Chairman.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Johnson, second by Councilman Satterley. Any objections? Motion passes.
Thank y'all for your support.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you. I like the way you did that. Come pay off your debt, then come ask for. Good strategy. Good strategy. That always worked with my mama. The next item on our agenda is the professional services contract between Ascension Parish Government and Fresh Architecture. Martha Collins, Grants Officer. Thank you, Martha.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of the committee. This is a renewal of a contract. This is Fresh Architect. This is the person that's working in our office, Grants Office, that is working on the Community Development Block Grant and also some of the FEMA's grants. And I would ask that you approve to move this forward and renew it and go to the council. Please, ma'am.
So moved. Madam Chairman.
A motion by Councilman Todd Lambert, a second by Councilman Brian Melanson. Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You get to just stay right there.
I'm right here. I'm
Ms.
ready.
Martha, together with me, you and I have worked, and I will confess here on TV in front of God and everybody that you did the vast majority of this work. And
It's a team effort.
Well, thank you for that. But I would like for you to proceed to update us on our effort to create guidelines for nonprofit grants.
All right, thank you, Madam Chairman. What we've done is we've done some research for you to look at different ways that we could address the nonprofits coming to the council and asking for additional funds. We feel like the nonprofits should support, or the parish should support nonprofit programs that include innovative services to provide for the residents and have an impact on the parish. Some of the targeted areas that we thought would be up for suggestions would be for senior citizens. That's an area that always needs additional assistance. Children's services, taking care of our children to make sure we have programs, and emergency services during a disaster with volunteers. Sometimes we don't have enough, and that might be an area. This is just some possible targeted areas that would be presented. The things that we found out is that for nonprofits, for the funding that the taxpayers do, we should make sure that the financial disclosure is there for you, accountability and transparency, and a benefit to the parish. Those are three areas that we found across the board in numerous applications that were done, that seemed to be the consensus of what direction we should be going. Budget, that would be determined by working with the administration and Parish President Martinez and the finance chair, so that you know when you set for the year that this is the amount of funds that will be set forth to administer or to afford opportunities for people to apply for these funds. That way you know that this is the amount of money that's going to be dealt with, and then that way you can do it accordingly. Some of the issues, there are some things that we were suggesting, and Madam Chairman had also here too earlier, is setting up a committee. The committee should be representing of 5 representatives, the finance chair, a representative from the parish council, a representative from grants, from finance department, and then one representative from a nonprofit who's basically already administering some of these, and that would be, if acceptable, Baton Rouge Area Foundation. They're very respectable in this area and could bring a good bit to the committee. Some of the areas that recommend, if the committee goes forward, that they should address the grant guidelines, process, funding availability, existing ordinance change if needed, as well as any other areas dealing with the program. The committee is recommended to come back to the Finance Committee their findings, and then request approval. I've listed several areas of following things that should be addressed. Funding cycle, how often would it be presented? Amount of funds to be distributed. Application process, eligibility. Reporting requirements, whether it's monthly or quarterly. Was it a financial or a progress report? Method of application, how would it be judged? Is it going to be on a rating system or a priority, or maybe both? Establish a grant policy and procedures. Selection of application recipient by committee, if this group deems that that's the way it should be. Possible grantee requirements. Should be a nonprofit 501c3. They should have federal tax form 990. An annual budget with both revenue and expenditures. Should have a mission statement. Bylaws of the organization. Listing of the board of directors and officers. Geographical serving area, so that we make sure that we are funds that are being appropriated are in our targeted areas. Intent, determine the intent of the funds to be used, and type of programs offered. And then last would be proposed possible application information. Just general information on the organization, where would be the deadlines, eligibility, the purpose of their grant, how to apply, restrictions, and you can go on. It's funding requests. So these are just a snapshot of what is our research and how this came about. Also, was asked to put together a possible grant application. So we looked at several different types. This is just a draft. This is just something for you to look at. And it goes through and just talks about eligibility, some of the, the areas that are important, the purpose, how is it going to be used, evaluation process, application procedures, and then it goes on into down to assurances, where they have to sign off on it and say that they will use the funds in this way, and if they don't, it has to come back to us. So, Madam Chair, that's the quick effort of trying to give you a little heads up on what you asked us to do. It's we felt like there were some that were really way out there. It was pretty stringent, but we thought that when we start, this is a fair application that can be tweaked by your committee, and ask for you to answer any questions or have any comments, Madam Chair, or what's your pleasure?
Pleasure of the chair is that this committee be formed. There's a tremendous amount of work that went into the initial preparation of all of this. Martha can tell you that, what the committee will have to do is just tweak, refine, make sure that every I is dotted, every T is crossed on the application process. But I believe that we have a good packet. It will, as I said, just need some finessing. So I would like to ask for a motion from this body to move this forward to the committee stage.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chair.
I have a motion by Councilman Benny Johnson
I'll second that.
and a second by Councilman Kent Shakesnyder. Any discussion, any questions? Councilman Joseph?
No problem with what's come back. I just want to ask one question, because we're dealing with the budget and everything, and I know we're still in that stage in which you go. The nonprofit organization that we are currently budget for, they would have to go through this process from like beginning, every organization.
Not those that have already been approved, no. This would begin in next year in January.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying for the next year. We'll adopt this here January, February. Next year our budget come in. everyone who wanted.
Everyone.
It sets the guidelines and protects you for the amount of time that people come, and, you know, it gives you the policy and procedures to do, basically.
And that question is, when this process is, the administration need this here deadline have to be done like July, August or something for you to do your budget for the upcoming year, correct? I'm saying, assuming, President.
That is
Not for this upcoming year.
correct. We'd actually be looking at 2014's budget.
14.
And that's why I'm saying, your committee, or whoever's on the committee, have to make sure we have to have this passed and done by a certain time, so
Exactly.
those people can put in their application.
Absolutely.
That, the timeline is a very important thing. That's the only thing.
Yes, sir. And I think that once the committee's formed and the representatives are determined, it's my assumption that we're going to move on this fairly quick so that the guidelines can be set. You'll have enough time for the people who move into 2014, there'll be a timeline that has to come in, because in the different stages and when people or organizations come to the council asking for funds. So that would be the first task, is to try and get this out, make some deadlines, determine this eligibility, and then move forward, come back to y'all before. I would hope that we could come back with it before the end of the year, maybe in December, to the Finance Committee. I don't see it would be something that should take us too long if we get in there and tackle it, have some interest. And so I think we've put together a pretty good starting point.
Most of the work is done.
Yeah.
It's a finesse process at this point, and I think that the real addition to with this program would be that, for the sake of nonprofits, those who have budgetary things that they need to meet, they will know fairly quickly before they get into their budgeting process whether or not they will be receiving a grant from the parish. And if they're not, they can budget accordingly. If they are, they can incorporate those funds in their budget for whatever particular projects they're looking at. Any, Councilman Satterley had a
Yes.
question.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Ms. Collins, our current parish non-profit granting program, to get an idea of size, I assume it, by Councilman Joseph's comments, it's small, maybe like 1 or 2 applicants currently. I know of one that we're funding for sure.
No, it's
Or is it quite big?
No,
it's
sir.
about $209,000.
It's fairly
not
large.
the money. I'm talking about how many people are applying for
And
this
that
money.
goes to, I think, 8 or 9 different.
About 15.
Is it 15?
Right.
About 15 that come up regularly, some of them is in the budget, and then some just come to us.
Yeah, it's a
Right.
fairly sizable number, Mr.
Basically,
President.
whatever
So
you
is it-
did last year, we just put it in the budget, but it has to come to you to get approved. Every one of those agencies would have to come to you this upcoming year to get approved again. So,
Right.
But the following year, it won't be that way. We'll figure, like Councilman Joseph said, we'll figure a number that y'all want to put in there, and basically that's the number that these people are going to have to compete for, I think, is basically what you're trying to say.
Absolutely. That's a good way to put it.
So, thanks to everyone. It sounds like we're getting a fairly healthy response then already, maybe 1 or so a month if you consider a 12-month period. So the work of this committee would be significant in terms of time commitment.
Well, I think that what it is once you look at just the basic application of what, and the committee determines a timeline of when the application should be in, when they should be, the eligibility, what areas or would you like to pursue for the parish to make sure that it's cohesive across the board. The committee will determine these areas, and then that gives you a focus on where the funds are going to be going, and therefore you can measure those. It's being done all over. I mean, I see it more and more, and how even with the parish grants, they want to know where it's going, what the benefit is, how does it impact the parish? You know, are the funds being utilized in the best manner? So whether it be on our government side and funding that we get, or the nonprofits, it should be transparent and the same guidelines that we're holding for us. Because these are the taxpayers' dollars, we want to make sure that it is something that we keep consistent. And
Okay.
so I see it, I think that we can do this fairly quick.
And I think to answer your question, Councilman Satterley, once the guidelines are formulated, the function of this committee will be to read those grants.
Right.
So
That's where I was
you'll
headed.
have a gap
Right,
in
okay.
time.
I thought you meant
It's
how
fair
long
to
was it going to take for us to
No, no,
get
that-
this?
that's
I'm sorry.
fine. But it's fair to say, too, that this is an attempt to make the existing process, whatever it may be, more fair in terms of those people that are applying, so they can't point fingers and say,
Right.
you're favoring this nonprofit or that, which I'm sure is not the case, but I'm
No,
just,
sir, I don't think that
But-
either,
but-
but it does give you a little more guidance on,
So it's a
and
step in the right
the
direction.
people, the agencies who are coming to you, you'll know that they have been through a selection and that the areas in which you deem to be important.
and, Madam Chairman, this doesn't in any way step on the toes of Councilman Lambert and the Personnel Committee or any of that kind of stuff in doing this. Todd, you totally comfortable with this? Yes.
Councilman Shake Snyder?
Yes, I think the benefits are a lot of times we get things right as we come into a meeting, and you get a very good organization that, and that needs money, and we have to weigh that within 2 or 3 minutes without any other information. And this gives us an opportunity to have someone take a look at it over long term, gives us a chance that if the organization does have a legitimate concern that they can increase their revenues, and we should fund it, it gives us a reason that we have some background and that we can come in and do that, and that's really important. It also keeps away any frivolous ones. And then the other thing I just want to recommend is that we keep everything very simple and hold people accountable. Just give us a simple page, that's accountability, this is where the money went, this is what it did, and then, let's continue, because this is a very valuable thing that we're doing throughout the parishes. A lot of these services are doing very valuable things for the parish, so we want to keep doing that.
Absolutely. Any further questions, discussion? Councilman Joseph?
I just want, once they, no, I'm going to ask this question. Once they do this, and what Mr. Shake Snyder just said, they say, hey, one of the councilmen, I want you to put us on the agenda that asks for some additional funds.
They got to go through that process.
I just want to make sure that we cover ourselves, that we make a policy that is not allowed by,
Right.
It-
The
it-
process
we have a
for
one-time deal,
appropriations.
We have one type of money.
The process for appropriations will be in this grant program. And you're going to get several opportunities to affirm that, and each time you vote on it, that means don't take any questions from other ones, gentlemen. Councilman Turner?
So will we have a set amount per year that's given out for grants? So we'll have that posted?
That's the
Yes.
process that we're hoping to get you a firm budget so that you know that this is what is going to go to nonprofits. There's an application process, there's an approval, it goes before the council, the finance committee, they're ratified, and then we're up and going.
And would it be possible to list that amount on the website and list those nonprofits that got it and how much they got, so everybody can know?
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's no problem
think
with
that's a
that. In
great
fact,
idea.
We can,
And what their benefit to the community was seen as. And
Mhm.
in fact, those grants those grantees who are successful, those grants could be posted on the webpage.
plus that, they have to come before this committee and give you progress reports on what they're doing. We're going to hold them accountable for those funds, and if they are not doing it according to that application, then the deal is the money goes back to the parish. It's a reimbursable. I might say, I want everyone to know,
Yeah,
this is not
reimbursable.
it's not give you a check. This is a reimbursable fund. So there's no
Councilman
money up
Kluat?
front.
Yeah, just in my short tenure here, we've had some good people come up that were trying to do a good thing for a lot of local people. And they didn't have all their finances in place, all their bookkeeping in place, nor did they even have the ability to maintain a staff, okay? So they probably wouldn't qualify for this program, because if you go through your checkpoints, they wouldn't have it. We've also had some people come to our doorstep here and request money that have met every statute, whether state, local, federal, and they may have been representing a large metropolitan area, and when we question them about the funding that we're sending to them, we find out that our 4 surrounding parishes don't give them zero. Okay? All right? We've had other people that came here with good programs, and then about a month after we give them the money, we find out that the guy that's running the program, he's indicted and he's going to federal prison, all right? He went vacationing with the money. One thing that I just want to challenge, I love all this and I think it's a good thing, is that by saying who we're going to give to right now, posting on a website, posting the amount that we're going to give, basically if you're not on the list now, you're never going to be on it. There's so much money.
No,
That's pretty much taken up right now. I'm going to be honest. Let's be honest about it. That's pretty much taken up. Anybody that comes here new is going to apply for more money. So if we have a budget of, say, $250,000 that we're giving away, and that's, if you pull a list up right now, it's pretty much there. That's what's budgeted based on what we've been doing. Am I correct?
It's about 209,000. Our hope, Randy, is that we will get to the point where people know what the guidelines are, what the criterion are, and those who qualify will apply. And perhaps what we can get to is where we give a significant amount of money that makes a difference to an organization this year, and perhaps a different organization the next year, and perhaps a different organization yet again the next year.
And that will be determined. The
I'm
committee will
just
address all
challenged-
the
I'm just
frequency.
talking about
of-
we will face that point where
Absolutely.
somebody is going to walk up here and probably be local in an organization that may have not asked you for money in the last 5 years, but may want money next year. If they're not in that number, and they're not in that total, then what we have done, and smile like Councilman Joseph over there, people have came up here and we felt the good nature to support them. And the budget's been adjusted to do that, either up or down or however it falls. Or we going to a point where we got a solid piece of money and that's all we're going to give out. That's all I'm asking. Because everybody's going to stand in line to be in that first line. Okay? And the ones that's not watching and the ones that's not paying attention, what we're going to tell them when they come up. I'm just asking about that particular part. I agree
think
with the
that when the
process
committee-
because I do want the transparency and I do want the application checked into about the money that we are giving to people on the nonprofit.
Right.
I
think
can't
that-
answer those questions.
I think the committee will have to flesh all that out and then move forward from there. But at some point, I think what's going to happen is the answer is going to have to be no. If you did not apply, you did not go through the process, you are not transparent, you do not follow this criterion, then we appreciate that you have a need, but the parish's tax dollars cannot meet that need. Councilman Johnson.
I think we're all saying the same thing here. I think what this committee is going to need to do is set up the time frame for when these applications are going to be accepted and when the issuing date's going to be. One of the other things, too, I think we're going to need to set up is that even though we set a budget of 250,000, whatever it is within the budget that's going to be available, we set up exactly how much each grant is going to be for. A maximum amount, if it's going to be in $10,000 increments, $5,000 increments, whatever that may be. That way you know what you're applying for when they come in and make those applications. Because you may have if you have a larger group, we've had some groups come in that are battered women's groups. I think we've had those folks come in the past, and we've given them, say, 10, 11,000, whatever it is. We've had some groups that come in, we give 4 or 5. So whether you don't necessarily have to have all of them set up at the same amount, you can set up varying amounts and what they can apply for within that.
Because eventually what you're going to wind up with is you're going to have, obviously, you're going to have more groups requesting more money than what we have budgeted. And so we're going to get to the point of where we're turning some groups down with this system. I agree with the system. I think it needs to be there. It gives us an opportunity to vet these groups to make sure which ones are of a higher priority to us, that we want to help fund their activities to help our citizens within the parish. And from this, we can go ahead and make sure that we're getting the money to the proper people. And you can also set in there, you got it in here, whether it be funding cycles or eligibility requirements, those type of things. If you get it this year, you can apply next year. If you get it 2 years in a row, you can't apply for it 3 years in a row. Those type of things can be vetted out through this committee to make sure that the newer groups that are coming on that we haven't helped before, that we can get to those folks through attrition. And it's pretty plain and simple. If somebody comes in and wants to apply for a grant, here's the application, here's the criteria that you got to meet. And you didn't get it this cycle, but we're taking grants February next year, April next year, get all this stuff in a row, get your ducks together to where you're ready to go. And when you put in an application, when we start accepting them, you'll be in line, ready to go and have your stuff there. And so then it's just a matter of where does it fall on the priority list of that committee.
I think that once Madam Chairman has the committee in place, and if there's some specific areas that you as councilman want to address, I think it's incumbent on you to probably let that information go to us or to that committee and make sure that we do have your concerns in best
Absolutely.
interest in being able to do that. I mean, I'm sure everyone is not going to be happy, but what it is that you're looking at what's the best for the parish. And so, this committee will bring that information back. If you don't like that, there's always come back again. I don't know what that's going to go to. I'm just here to bring the message and bring something forward that I was asked to do, and we'll work. I'm sure the
Absolutely.
committee will work to the best interest of the entire council.
Absolutely.
And
Councilman Malone.
administration.
Yeah, we're not saying we're going to put a cap on an amount that we're willing to do that we're not doing now, right? We're just saying this is going to be the procedures. You have to get in by a certain time so that it's in before the budget's set up, and we can have a hard numbers in the budget, right?
That is my
I think that-
intention, yes.
Councilman McClure, is that where I think by what he said, he was thinking we were saying we're going to put a cap and we're not giving any more than that, and that's why he said people are going to get left out. But that's not what I'm
The budget may fluctuate from year to year, I mean, depending on the number of applicants and how many it is
We just want to
perceived
make
that.
sure that you get it in time so that, because the budget, if we get it in time with procedures, by the time they put this budget together, we already know who's going to be approved, and we have a hard number without having to cap it beforehand.
I think that's a correct assessment, yes. Councilman Shakespeare.
We're going to find all of this works out. Right now, within the budget for next year, as Mr. President said, they just put a number that we followed from this year. What's going to happen is that this committee is going to make recommendations at this time next year what should go into the budget based on the applications they get, the validity of them, and the response. So we'll have a better number then. We can decide whether we want to spend more or less or keep it around the same. And from that point, once they get that, they can tell the people that apply whether they want to get fully funded or partially funded or whatever. So I think a lot of this is going to work out because we'll have a system, and I think we need to trust the people that are involved. And, by next year, I think you'll see a very positive results out of it. So
I certainly hope so. Any other questions? Councilman McClure.
Yeah, I just want to clear up that I agree with the procedure,
Thank
that
you.
you are going to actually go through the applications, but the committee will not be, grading the applications, and all applications will come forward.
Well, approval of the applications, the committee will make recommendations to the council, as I see it,
Okay.
for that is how I envision it. Now,
Yes.
certainly that is subject to change if this body does not agree. But as I envision it, the committee will make recommendations that these particular A, B, C, and D be funded. And they will have reasons, and they will demonstrate what those reasons are.
Madam Chair.
Councilman Satterley.
Thank you, ma'am. To be sure, from Mr. Clout's, just his question, so when this committee, assuming it's established, were to pick 1, 2, 3 or more individuals in year X and agree to certain amounts and whatever, they will be sending that recommendation to the full parish council or back to this committee. And I realize we all sit on the same, but this is
We'll come back to finance and then
this is a
move
recommending
through.
body to the
It's a
main
rec-
council.
Finance.
Recommending body to the finance committee then moves to the council.
I think
comfortable
that's
with
what we're currently doing. You're bringing, the nonprofits are coming to the
Yes.
finance committee.
Yes.
The finance chooses to go forward to your full council.
Gentlemen, for the sake of clarification, do I feel like at some point somebody's going to not make the cut? Absolutely. But at some point, we have to do that. As we expect our administration to manage its money, we certainly have to manage what money we send to nonprofits, and it is important that they meet a certain criterion, that their financial house be in order, and that they be transparent in the work that they do. I am the executive director of a nonprofit. If I want money, I don't even ask for it, quite frankly, from state or local government. I ask for it from other granting organizations, and I have to justify why I want that money, what I'm going to do with it, and I have to prove that that's what I've done. And I believe that no less should be expected of the people who are given the benefit of taxpayer dollars that are given to, that are utilized by this administration. So yes, in answer to some of your concerns, at some point someone will be turned away. But we have got to have a position. At some point that's going to have to be done anyway. So we need a process by which it can be done in the most fair and equitable way. And having looked at this with Martha, I think this is the most fair and equitable way to do it.
Madam Chair, and this is just a draft. This is by no means the set thing. It was just for
Absolutely
you to have guidance to move it to the next level. That's
Any
it.
other questions? We have a motion and a second. Councilman Lohr?
I was just going to say, we are very haphazard, I think, with sometimes with the way some people will come to us right now. And I think also, we also have to challenge the people who have been getting the same amounts over and over every year. You know, just it's good to kind of have them go through the rigorous process that this would be. I think we're being a little unrealistic with ourselves if we don't think that, as you just stated, there's going to be a lot of unhappy people who don't get it. In fact, with this being more competitive, we may find that there are more applicants that have never applied before, and maybe those are fantastic and would be of great benefit. But, you know, we are going to get political pushback for those that may be getting some appropriations now and then don't. But I'd ask everyone to just also consider we could be like the city of Gonzales, who does nothing, period. You know, so that's, you know, I think where this is, I don't think anybody wants to go in that direction, because I think a lot of these things do bring a lot of value to the parish. But I think, you know, we have to be realistic about there being a target number out there that we're kind of all get comfortable with, and we make that process as competitive as possible and worthy as possible, which I think this does. So I think this is a good step. And then every year, we kind of determine if we are getting more applicants that we think would be useful for the community. We just increase, if we want to increase the budget, you know, for that pot of grant money, then we do that, or not. But I think this is a very good start.
Mr. President, do you have any comment?
I'm just going to say, I think more importantly than the amount of money at this point is to set a criteria. I mean, you cannot, I mean, let's just say we all love the Boy Scouts, we all love the Girl Scouts, and if every troop comes up here and applies for money, you know, that's not what this body's about. I mean, there's some, I think when this first started, it was dealing with National Guard, those type agencies, maybe Volunteer Ascension, that does a lot of stuff in the community. But I think recently it's been branched out a little bit more than it should as far as what the validity is into some of this. Some of these people may have a budget of $20 million a year, but yet they're going to come and ask. As I said, you're just going to have to be careful as to what criteria do you have and what does it mean to the parish as a whole, more so than saying, okay, boom. But you can't leave yourself open on this because if you say we got $300,000 we're going to give away this year, I can assure you you're gonna have to make some tough decisions up there.
Right.
You're gonna be looking at Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, mamas, daddies, and those type things. I mean, I just think, I don't think that that's what it was set up to be in the beginning when they were giving money out. Like some of the stuff was for the commodity programs that benefited the, it was worked through the government agencies, and like I said, a lot of things were with the military and those type things. But when you start opening it up to every nonprofit organization, do you realize how many nonprofit organizations there are in this parish? So I think you open yourself up to for a lot of problems, because you're going to have everybody coming here. I would make sure that the criteria that you set before you apply would be the most important thing, and what it has to do with the parish and what it has to do with benefiting the citizens here in the parish specifically as a whole, not just as a special interest group.
I agree, and I think that that is what we have targeted, is a set of criteria. And in fact, I envision each year the committee recommending to this finance committee and then to the council those 3 areas that they would like to address in that given year. What we hope to do with the first one is children's services, elderly services, and disaster funds for in emergency situations. That would be my recommendation for the first year's criterion, but I will certainly defer that to the committee. So I think what I need to do now, if there's no more discussion, is ask for a vote on the motion by Councilman Benny Johnson and the second by Councilman Kent Shakesnyder to move forward to the formation of a committee, and then I'm going to ask those members of that committee to be voted on as well.
I think you got to do that as a council. You have to form a committee for the council.
Okay.
To the council.
Okay, that's fine. Don't know how we do it.
If it was a
Subcommittee
subcommittee,
of the-
if it was a subcommittee
Can
of
we
the
do a
finance
subcommittee of
committee, then it would be okay, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So that, if that's the way to do it, let's do a subcommittee of finance.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay. So, having had what I think
The
is
chairman
very,
should name the
very
subcommittee member.
healthy discussion about this issue, I would like to ask if there are any objections.
So what is the motion?
The motion is to form the committee to,
Subcommittee.
a subcommittee of the Finance Committee to further finesse the applications and criterion for the grant allocation program.
Thank you.
I have a motion and a second. Any objections? Motion passes. And I would like to ask that Councilman Satterley offer to serve on the committee, and I will serve on that committee. I would also like to ask a representative from Finance, which can be appointed by that department, a representative from the
Grants office.
Grants Office, which, Ms. Martha, you can choose who that will be, or yourself, and then certainly Councilman Lohr will, as the chairman, would always be welcome in any committee meeting. And we are also going to have chosen a member representative from Baton Rouge Area Foundation, and I've already talked to their director, Mr. John Spain, and he is willing to do that, or have someone to do that. So that we will have an organization to look at this that has a lot of experience. Councilman Satterley has been reading grants most of his public career, and so I think he brings a lot to the table in this discussion. And likewise, the Baton Rouge Area Foundation has been giving grants for many, many years, and I think that John can appoint us someone who will bring a lot to the table, and Martha and myself, and then, of course, we'll wait on an appointment from the Finance Committee, Finance Department. Mr. President, do you want to have a representative on that committee, or does Grants and
Grants is
Finance
fine.
handle it?
Finance, that's plenty for us.
Okay, thank you. Do I need a motion and a second to form the committee in that fashion, the subcommittee in that fashion?
That's
It's your choice.
That's your.
My purview?
Chairman, yes, ma'am.
Your
Thank you
chairman.
so much.
Chairwoman.
Appreciate that, then consider it done. Miss Martha will be our contact person. She will organize us. Got that, Martha?
Congratulations, Mark.
You win. You got the short straw.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. And I thank the members of this committee for indulging me in this effort. And I also thank you for your spirited discussion of it. I think it was outstanding. And then we move along now to item number 12, the monthly contract report.
The monthly contracts report for September 2012 was in your package. You can look over it. Those are the contracts we entered between the 1st and 30th of September.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Have a motion by, who was that?
Councilman Lambert.
Y'all know I'm going deaf in that ear. By Councilman Todd Lambert, second by
I'll move, second.
Councilman Benny Johnson to accept the monthly contract report. Any questions?
Yes, I'd like to make a
Discussion.
substitute motion to take item 10 off of that due to some administration problem with that agreement.
Madam Chair, if I could comment.
Yes.
I think it's already, this is just in FYI, informative. This has already all been paid from previous contracts.
Actually,
Contract number 10 is not that we pay them, it's that they pay us.
Okay.
So.
But
I
I guess what I'm saying is I don't
So
think
what-
that would be the proper method to have, to basically.
Let me just say this. We signed the contract in February, okay? Now, it didn't get signed on the other end until
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. We have not received the first dollar, so we want to kind of reserve, if you would, you could this is okay to go ahead and okay this, but we're going to handle it in a different manner, I think, so.
Okay.
From a legal perspective. I don't
Okay.
want to get into any
Sure.
details at this point.
It's not appropriate for discussion at this time. We have a motion and a second. Any objections?
I'd just like to withdraw mine.
You going to withdraw?
In fact, I don't even think the monthly contract support, it needs a motion ever.
Doesn't need a
It's
motion
just
to
an
adjourn?
FYI. I mean, we
Well,
set it up when I was finance chair because I thought it would be good for everyone to see anything over $50,000,
Right.
just kind of transparency.
Well,
So
I
it's just-
apologize.
Okay.
And we don't need a motion and a second. We're-
Move on.
And Mr. Johnson said I didn't need to apologize.
Move on.
Just move on. Item number 13, insurance agent contract, Harry Robert Insurance. Mr. Martinez?
This is the contract, I'm gonna handle it, this is the contract for Robert Insurance, Mental Health Insurance. It's a yearly contract, and, for the services, he solicits programs and quotes, reviews all the, parish person and makes personnel recommendations too. Reviews any requests that we desire in the program.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Randy Cluott, a second by Councilman Kent Shakespeare. Any discussion? Any objections? Motion passes. Next item, item 14, the sales and use tax report. Ms. Gwynn.
You have before your monthly sales and use tax report. You can see by the collections in the middle column that there are each of the three districts that has a sales tax, they're all up for either from month to month or year to date. And then on the far right-hand corner column, you can see compared to our budget that at 66.66% of the year, the collections are in East Ascension drainage, 83% above budget, of the budget, not above, of the budget, and 88.17% of the budget, and 87.6% of the budget. So all of our sales tax districts are up. This is a time that we've been looking forward to since the recession started, and I think it's going to, the collections will continue in the positive manner throughout the rest of this year. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Any questions, gentlemen? Hearing none, we will move on to item 15, the revenue and expenditure report.
Good evening. Before you are the financial reports for the month of August 2012. On page 1, total revenues are at 64.90% at 66.66% of the year. The funds highlighted in green are funds that are under budget by 5% or more. There are 10 operating funds and 7 capital funds that fall within that guideline. And on page 4 of the report, there's an explanation for these funds. On page 2, your total expenditures are at 58.82% at 66.66% of the year. The funds highlighted in green are funds that are over the budget by 5% or more. And there are 7 operating funds and 5 capital funds that fall into that category. And on page 5 of the report, there is an explanation of those funds. Page 3 are charts that compare both year-to-date revenue and expenditures on operating, which is the yellow bar, and the capital, which is the blue bar, to the budget, which is your green bar. The last page of the report is a list of all checks issued in the month of August over $100,000, and the total of these checks are $1,574,339,000. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer at this time.
Gentlemen, do we have any questions? Seeing none, we'll move on. Item number 16, request for proposals, results from the non-engineering selection committee for medium-duty truck leasing program. And I would like to take just a moment at this point to express our condolences to Ms. Joan Shivers upon the death of her father. Ms. Joan is a beloved employee of the parish, and the loss of her father, I'm sure, is devastating to her and to her family, as well as to other parish employees. So at this point, please, those of you who will be seeing her, express our condolences to her.
Thank you. On September 11th, 2012, the Purchasing Department received 2 proposals for a medium-duty truck leasing program. The proposals were received from Louisiana CAT and Parish Equipment Leasing. After review, the Non-Engineering Selection Committee recommends accepting the proposals submitted by Louisiana CAT for trash and grapple loading dump trucks, and Parish Truck Leasing for the fuel truck, dump truck, and winch truck, and to authorize the parish president to begin contract negotiations for this service.
Have a motion by Councilman Randy Cluott, second by Councilman Todd Lambert. Any questions? Any objections? Motion passes.
On September 28th, 2012, the Purchasing Department received 3 bids for the Avia telephone system. The bids were received from Access Communications, LLC, Enterprise Systems, and NACR. Enterprise Systems withdrew their bid after determining that bid rate for the IP phone 9611G was incorrectly posted, and they could not honor the correct rates. Posted $45.56 each, corrected $271.53 each, for a total of 115 units. After review, the Purchasing Department and Parish Technology Department recommend accepting the lowest responsive bid from Access Communications, LLC, and to authorize the parish president to begin contract negotiations for this project.
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Lohr.
Second.
Second by Councilman Joseph. Any objections? Motion passes.
On September 25th, 2012, the Purchasing Department received 2 bids and 1 no-bid notice for the Sorrento Sewer Plant Improvement Construction. The bids were received from SEMS and Terra Renewal Services. There was a letter of no bid from Sinardro South LLC. After reviewing the Purchasing Department, Parish Grants Office, and PEC recommend accepting the lowest responsive bid from Terra Renewal Services and to authorize the parish president to begin contract negotiations for this project.
So moved, Madam Chairman.
Motion from Councilman Todd Lambert,
Second.
second from Councilman Kent Shakespeare. Any questions? Any objections? Motion passes. Councilman Lambert, would you like to handle agenda item 18?
Madam Chairman.
Thank you very much. I don't imagine there'll be any objection.